Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, Kevin Ambrose. I am Kevin Ambrose. Um, this channel is pretty much dedicated to anime and manga videos. I haven't posted videos in quite a while, and I'm coming back. I feel like doing a channel that is talking about mainly anything regarding pretty much anything. If you join my channel for the first time, my channel has mostly been dedicated to anime and manga reviews. But I'm feeling like talking about anything, talking about any topic I feel like talking about in particular. And to start off this video, for this first video, I feel like been posting, and I feel like this is a topic that many people will quite enjoy, and many people probably feel interested in. And this topic is simply about DC. And if you've ever watched any DC movie for the last, branching off about 5 years, we're entering 2018 right now. We are in 2018. For about 5 years ago, in 2013, around the summer release time in June, DC and Warner Brothers released a movie called Man of Steel. Now, if anyone has ever watched Man of Steel or has paid attention to any DC film, if you have not heard, DC is sucking. Not so much sucking, I don't want to say it like that, but it has not been good. WB's Warner Brothers, right? Warner Brothers as a studio, their attempt to compete with Marvel, to compete with Disney, by launching their own universe, cinematic universe, by starting with releasing Man of Steel. Unfortunately, that movie did not get as quite a praise, as quite of a critical, decent response as WB was hoping for. It was just a very unfortunate thing. It really didn't get the type of level of expectation that they were expecting. They expected this movie to be good. And in order for a universe to start and be successful, the movie has to be good. But the movie was mixed. Now, personally, I feel like that movie was very, very good. I really like that movie. I find it amazing. And every time I watch it, I like it more. However, I cannot deny, and even if you are, and I know maybe some of you out there feel the same way, whether or not you like these DC films, starting off with Man of Steel, they came out with Batman vs. Superman, and that did not get as much of a critical reception as people were expecting either. And then Suicide Squad came out, and that didn't get as much of a critical reception as people were expecting. That movie bombed. Well, not financially. Financially, it did do very well. But when it came to the critical response, the audience response, it wasn't quite as high. Now, Suicide Squad was a movie that I find enjoyable. It was much more enjoyable than, say, Man of Steel or Batman vs. Superman, which is one of those films that were more, if you didn't like those two films, it was more dark and somber, and it wasn't entertaining. Whereas Suicide Squad, despite how you feel about the movie, I didn't like it. I did not like it. I'll just be straight with you, right? I didn't like Suicide Squad all that much. I found it mildly entertaining. And the entertainment aspect of it made me like the movie a little more than I should have. I felt the movie was a mess. I felt like the movie wasn't good. And it's been that way for DC. You start off with Man of Steel, mixed reception. Batman vs. Superman, critically panned. So sitting at 26% on Rotten Tomatoes, I think. So Suicide Squad, not any better. The reception to these movies have not been good. And then Wonder Woman came out. That kind of shifted things. That kind of, people who watch that movie, they're like, it's a good movie. It's a good movie. But it wasn't enough per se. It, it helped shift the dynamic of DC films, but unfortunately, Wonder Woman had so much baggage from the other previous films, that because it had so much baggage from the other previous films, that despite how good that movie was, structurally, the universe was failing apart, falling in shambles. It did not change the structure of the universe. There was nothing to build off of. You had the Zack Snyder vision of what Zack Snyder was trying to build, but as they gave up on Zack Snyder's vision because of critical disappointment, financial disappointment. Remember, Batman vs. Superman had a major second week drop, and it is the only movie to have made an opening weekend box office of $170 million or more and not make $1 billion at the box office. Again, Batman vs. Superman had the largest second week drop from its opening weekend to its second week. It has the largest second weekend drop. It had a large second weekend drop, and it is to this date the only movie to have opened in its opening weekend with $170 million or more and not make $1 billion at the box office. It made close to $900 million, but it did not make $1 billion at the box office. Rather disappointing. And when you think about it, in a movie with Batman and Superman in the same movie, you would expect it to hit $1 billion, but it didn't. And that's what's disappointing. That is rather disappointing. And so to compare that, then you want to talk about how the structure of the universe it's falling into shambles, right? The structure of the universe is falling into shambles. Wonder Woman was good, but it could not carry the weight of the failing universe. They just could not catch a break. WB and DC could not catch a break. Their films were not working. Wonder Woman being the sole exception. And then Justice League came out, and we all saw it. Justice League came out last year, in November 2017, and we all saw that despite the movies, I found it quite entertaining, but I really did not like this movie. I really was disappointed by Justice League. And I'll be straight up honest with you. I was extremely disappointed with Justice League. I like Suicide Squad more than I like Justice League. That just shouldn't happen. I mean, shouldn't happen maybe, but you expect Justice League to be this big event film that you like and you really enjoy. But it really comes down to this. The universe was in shambles. And now we hear in January of 2018, DC Films, WB has appointed, if you haven't heard the news, it started in January 2018, and to this date, we are now approaching 2 weeks away from Comic-Con, but this is what's important to talk about. The universe was failing, there was no structure to it. Wonder Woman being the only good film that has been universally praised by critics and fans. The universe was failing. The DC side of Warner Brothers, who, by the way, Warner Brothers is a very good studio. Warner Brothers knows it's a very smart studio, it's a very good studio, but unfortunately when it comes to DC, they don't know what they're doing. And that's why there was the Hollywood Reporter posted an article a couple weeks ago from Boris Kidd, very trusted source, very trusted man. He is the man to go to when it comes to, he does not write something unless he knows for sure that he is talking the truth. He does not post an article, he does not post an editorial until he knows gets 100% his facts correct. And the Hollywood Reporter is a very trusted source. And so he wrote an article for the Hollywood Reporter a couple weeks ago about the entirety of the DC universe. Walter Hamada was appointed in January, as we all know. If you didn't know that, Walter Hamada, a New Line executive at Warner Brothers, a division of Warner Brothers named New Line Cinema, Walter Hamada was an executive from New Line, and Toby Emmerich, current chairman of Warner Brothers, under Kevin Tsujihara, they appointed Walter Hamada as the new DC-based films production title. He's the president of DC Films. He runs everything DC Films, from their vertical imprint to their regular movies, this universe that they're trying to build, to anything based on DC Films. He is the president. He is in charge of that. He is in charge of this universe now. And he, as quoted by the Hollywood Reporter article, he walked into a shit show. Quote unquote. I'm not, he quote unquote, he walked into a shit show. The universe was failing. And remember, I said there's a structure problem. DC has a structure problem. Their universe is not working. And so in comes Walter Hamada, and he walks into a shit show, quote unquote shit show. And now he's in charge of cleaning up that mess. He's in charge of building this continuity. He's in charge of building this universe, which is falling apart. There is no structure to this universe. And that lies in two problems. Whether or not you like DC Films, there are two problems. Whether or not you like, I will give you a little warning that if you're a Zack Snyder fan, that's okay. But I do not want to insult you. I have no means to insult you, but this is not meant to offend you. This is not meant to attack you. If you like Zack Snyder's vision, or if you like Zack Snyder's fans, if you're a Zack Snyder fan, if you're a fan of his movies or you like his vision for these movies, you have to admit two things. One, his vision was not working. Remember, Man of Steel was, I like it. I think it was an amazing movie. It was very, very good. But it was divisive from audiences. Some people really love the movie, again, like me. Some people calling it a masterpiece. John Campea calls it a masterpiece. And there are people who really hate the movie. They just did not like it. They said, this is not Superman. They did not appreciate the grittier tone, the darker tone, grittier tone. And they just didn't like the movie in general. So there are people that really liked it. There are people who really didn't like it. And similarly, the critic reviews were much the same way. Critics were divided too. There were some critics that really loved Man of Steel. And there were some critics that did not. And then came Batman vs. Superman, and then that didn't work either. That was critically panned. Warner Brothers gave up on Zack Snyder's vision. They cut the movie, about 30 minutes of it, and then they eventually released a ultimate edition. But basically, they even gave up on Zack Snyder's vision. So you have to admit two things if you're a Zack Snyder fan. This is not meant to offend you, but you have to admit two things. Zack Snyder's vision was not working, and Warner Brothers gave up on it. And these are the two problems that have been plaguing the DC universe that has made WB struggle to build this universe, which is why Walter Hamada is entering a quote-unquote shit show. WB knew that the Zack Snyder vision for this universe is not working. They knew this. Everyone knew this. His vision was bold, it was ambitious, and whether you like it so far or not, I liked Man of Steel, I loved BVS, but his vision was not working. And a lot of people, I can attest to this, I know a lot of people who did not like Batman vs. Superman, who did not like Man of Steel, they admit that This universe was failing. They think it sucks. They think these movies suck, and they don't think it's any good. His vision was failing, and WB gave up on it. And because of this, WB gave up on Batman vs. Superman. They had to cut the film a little bit, made it uneditable. They reactionary. The movie came out. It was clear Zack Snyder's vision was not working. It was not meshing well with audiences. So they decided to cut up David Ayer's Suicide Squad. They decided to cut up David Ayer's Suicide Squad. And then, cutting up David Ayer's Suicide Squad, they decided to then, there he put it, make it more fun. And I enjoyed that movie. I enjoyed Suicide Squad, but I enjoyed it more than I should. I did not think it was a very good movie. I enjoyed it somewhat. It was enjoyable. The music was mildly entertaining, but it was just not, to me, a very good movie. I did not like it at all. It was just a mess. It was a mess. And so it really comes down to this, that movie came out and that critically banned. So WB's reactionary attitude to Zack Snyder's vision made it very clear that they had no idea what they were doing, and which is why Walter Hamada entered a quote-unquote shit show. And I will keep saying this throughout the video. Walter Hamada walked in when he was appointed president of DC Films in January of 2018. He walked in a quote-unquote shit show. Zack Snyder's vision was not working. WB gave up on it. If WB had not given up on Zack Snyder's vision, we might have had a more cohesive universe, a more structured universe, but not a very good one. Because despite my love for his Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman film, despite my love for those two films, I enjoyed it and I liked it very much. Despite that, his movies have been very divisive, and this is not just the DC films, it's all his films. Watchmen was divisive. 300 is his only good film. Dawn of the Dead was probably his only good film, but that was written by James Gunn, who is a talented screenwriter and director. And quite frankly, it's most of his movies. Sucker Punch, it didn't work. Most of his movies are critically panned or divisive. So it really is. I don't want to say it's his fault, but it's clear that his vision was not going to be universally loved and universally praised, and that is a problem. Whether you like Zack Snyder or not, you have to understand that is a problem. If your movies are not universally liked and universally praised, you have no ability to build a brand. And if you are trying to build this universe, you need to make it a brand. You need to make it a brand. The MCU started as an idealistic vision from one man. His name was Kevin Feige. But he knew he didn't have the rights to his A-list characters. He didn't have the rights to X-Men. He didn't have the rights to Spider-Man. And Anthony and Joe Russo even said this. Well, not Anthony and Joe Russo, but the writers of Avengers Infinity War, Stephen McFeely and Christopher Marcus, they said, they even attested to this, and when they were asked in an interview, how do they fix the DC universe? You have to start by looking at certain characters and saying, well, I need to take this character and make a damn good movie. That's how you start. But if with Zack Snyder, it was clear that his vision, despite having a vision, WB didn't have a vision. I will say this right now. The studio, WB, once again, Warner Bros. Is a very smart studio. They do a lot of things right. They do a lot of things good. But when it came to DC, they dropped the ball. They had no idea what they were doing. They just didn't know what they were doing. They didn't have a vision, but Zack Snyder did. But his vision was not working, and they gave up on it. And their reactionary attitude to giving up on it, they didn't know what they were doing and they couldn't fix it. So because they couldn't fix it, they just made the problem even worse. Think of it this way. When Batman vs. Superman came out, and the movie sucked, and then Warner Brothers decided to do reshoots, extensive reshoots on Suicide Squad, cutting up that movie, editing it, and it turned into this different type of movie that was not David Ayer's vision. You would then see, right, that they should have, as a smart studio, making smart decisions, which Warner Brothers is, but they were not making smart decisions with Warner Brothers if they did not, in order to be truly, to fix this problem, instead of being reactionary like that, they should have let Suicide Squad came out the way it was intended to make, and then fire Zack Snyder off of Justice League. They should have fired Zack Snyder. If they really did not think that his vision was going to work, that it was not going to be universally loved and praised, they should have fired Zack Snyder from the universe. They should have fired him off of Justice League, which was about to start production a mere few weeks after Batman vs. Superman came out. A few weeks. It was about to start pre-production. They should have fired Zack Snyder and delayed the production of the movie. But they did not. Now that might have brought in some more negative attention, saying, oh, Warner Bros. Is delaying Justice League, and the headlines, of course, would say, oh my gosh, Zack Snyder's fired, blah, 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 blah. But in the long run, in the short term, yes, it will still bring in negative attention to DC, but in the long run, they would have benefited from it. Because if they had delayed the movie, if they had delayed production of the movie, maybe delayed the movie for a year, it was going to come out in 2017, and it did, but if they had delayed production and made the movie come out this year in 2018, hired a different director, fired Zack Snyder and hired a different director, then the movie would have maybe been better, because they would have took their time, which is something that they didn't do, because they realized Zack Snyder's vision wasn't working, but their reactionary attitude to it was discombobulating and inefficient, to say the least. I don't want to tell a studio how they should run their movie studio, their movie division. I don't want to tell a studio how they should do business. But quite frankly, anyone who is a fan of these movies, who's a fan of DC characters, or anyone in general who understands basic common sense, could realize that maybe if they just took their head out of their asses and not decide to, quote-unquote, take a bonus. Oh, I wanted to meet that release date so I could add more bonuses to my checking account. Maybe you hadn't been so damn greedy. This universe would have benefited from it. Because if you had delayed the movie a year, and fired Zack Snyder, which was the right thing to do if you did not think his vision was working, you should have fired Zack Snyder off of Justice League, delayed production a mere couple months so that you could rewrite the script and find a new director to direct Justice League. The movie would have been good, not the abomination that we got, which, by the way, I'm going to have to not bring up in this video, because I think this video is getting a little too long already. A little much of a rambling. I think I'm going to call this show The Ramble. But, yeah, that will have to be for a separate video on what WB could have done better with Justice League. But to keep it plain and simple, the movie would have been good, not the abomination that we got, and we would have had a better movie, and this universe would have structure to it. Because in order for a universe to work, this comes back to what I was saying earlier. In order for this universe to work, They have to build a brand. And the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a brand. But it didn't start off that way. And Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, when they were asked in an interview how to make it, how to fix the DC Universe, they admitted this. We take characters and we just say, look at this character. Oh, this character is interesting. Let's create a damn good movie out of this movie. Remember, the Marvel Cinematic Universe started one man's vision, Kevin Feige, an idealistic vision, but he realized it would never work if the movies weren't good. And so he hired directors that met his vision creatively. He said, this is the movie I want to make. Do you want to make the same movie? The director says yes. They shake hands. They come up with a good script. They write the movie. They direct the movie. And the movie comes out. And it's good. Started off with Iron Man. Then they said, okay, we got to make an Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2 came out. And then we got the Hulk. And then we got Captain America. But it really begins with, you have to make these movies good. You have to take one character, just one. To quote Justice League, save one, just one. You take a character, you make a good movie out of it, and audiences will feel invested into this brand because they have to connect. It has to have a structure to it, and you have to build it brick by brick. Not just put the roof on top and then have everything else collapse. That's what DC is. A roof with no structure. You have to have structure. And because the movies have not been good, there is no structure. So Walter Hamada, once again, walks into a quote-unquote shit show. So really, what does it come down to? Is Walter Hamada the savior? Is Walter Hamada the savior of the DC Universe? According to this Hollywood Reporter article, he probably is. He walks into a shit show, but he realizes, according to this article, he will look at certain characters. He'll look at the major characters, keeping an eye on the major characters, while looking at other characters and saying, looking at ones that can be elevated and say, we got to make a movie out of this, and looking at other ones and saying, we got to focus on this. And really, he is, quote unquote, a man with a plan. He has a vision. He has a plan. He recognizes that DC's failures. He recognizes WB's failures with the DC Universe, releasing a slate but not sticking to it, and he realizes how overbloated the budgets are. So he recognizes these problems and he recognizes his mistakes, and really he comes together and he says, well, I have a plan and I'm going to fix it. He's Bob the Builder, and he's going to walk in and he says, I'm going to fix it. He can build it, he can fix it. And so, to sum it up, I think Walter Hamada, we are witnessing a change in the DC Films universe. Walter Hamada has a plan. Walter Hamada knows what he's doing. He has a plan, he has a vision, and he recognizes that we have to make one good movie. So this idea of we have to take characters and we have to start making good movies. If Aquaman, Shazam, and Wonder Woman 84 are all good, then the universe will have structure. So to put it plainly, simply, I think Walter Hamada, guys, we are witnessing, and I maybe rambled a little too long on this one, but I think I'll make a different video regarding Walter Hamada a little more. But I think this guy, if you're a DC fan, whether you're a Zack Snyder fan and liked his vision and you feel like WB did not do services to his vision, I agree with you. But whether you're a DC fan, you feel disappointed by these movies, or you love these movies and you just feel like WB is pushing away from them by not following Zack Snyder's vision, you should be happy for the future. Because I feel like with this man, Walter Hamada, Asian John Stamos, he is truly a man with a plan, who will fix this universe and recognizes the mistakes of the previous leadership at Warner Brothers, recognizing what they did wrong at Warner Brothers for when following the DC properties and fixing it. Make one good movie at a time. Take the time to build this universe by having structure. And to build structure, you need to have characters, likable characters. Take a character, make a movie out of it, and make it good. And that will do it, guys, for this video on the ramble. I think I'm going to call it the ramble because I am rambling way too long. I don't know if you guys caught all that, but if you guys did and stick around for this entire video, thank you to you. And I won't advertise subscriptions, so you guys can subscribe if you feel like it. But if you enjoyed this, thank you so much for watching this entire video. And I'll see you guys next time on The Ramble. As always, I'm Kevin Ambrose, everybody's favorite Asian, and I'll talk to you guys later.